Hi, I'm Lynn Roebuck, and welcome to our video module on accessible assistive technology, what to use, when, and how. Join us as we explore reading, writing, and math tools that support students across different learning environments. This training is a result of a special collaboration between the Alabama State Department of Education, Special Education Services, United Ability, and Accessing Potential Through Assistive Technology. These programs have worked with professionals from around Alabama to create meaningful learning opportunities for you. We hope that you gain valuable knowledge that can support you and your students. So let's get started.
Welcome to Accessible Assistive Technology, what to use, when, and how. I'm Michelle Henderson. I'm a school-based occupational therapist. I work in a number of Birmingham area schools with a wide range of students using all kinds of assistive technology. As an occupational therapist, my goal for every one of my students is for them to achieve the greatest level of independence possible throughout their school day. To achieve that, I do help students strengthen motor skills, exercise visual processing skills, and learn ways to demonstrate their learning using their strengths. But I also provide training on assistive technology solutions for students who have trouble with reading, writing, and with math. The solutions I would like to provide support, but do not do the work for the student. Also, I want them to be accessible to everyone, no matter how much support the student receives, and how much training you have or how tech-savvy you are. I want to empower the educators I work with to be confident assistive technology users themselves. Like I said, I do work for several school systems as an independent contractor, providing occupational therapy services to all age students. So I will be presenting on tools students can use throughout their school career. Since I am an OT, teachers will frequently ask for help with their students who have specific challenges with reading, writing, and math. The assistive technology solutions I provide not only help their students with the challenge, but they help the teacher become a more well-rounded problem solver. But determining if I should provide an AT solution and which one to go with can be intimidating. So let's walk through my typical decision-making process to determine what the best course of action will be. First, the need is identified. Problems or challenges tend to find me because you, the educator, have identified them. But let's take a step back to you identifying the need, and let's say your OT or assistive technology professional isn't there to give you guidance. Well, during this presentation, I hope to empower you to be up for the 3 challenges coming up on your own. So you've identified the challenge is one for which assistive technology can be the solution. Next, we identify and consider any physical or cognitive challenges, or are there technology limitations? And that if there are, we need to keep them in mind as we identify tools. Now we figure out what devices your student has access to. Does your school provide each student with a Chromebook? Maybe you have an iPad in your classroom that the student could use. Also, what AT do you have available? What programs does your school system subscribe to? And low tech, what kinds of tools do you already have in your classroom? If you're unsure what I'm talking about, I'll show you a bunch of examples as we go along. Now you want to show the student how to use the tool, but not just the student. Show the instructional assistants, show the reading specialist, the math intervention teacher, whoever knows the student, so that everyone can help them if they get lost, and so that the team surrounding the students know how they can use the AT as well. And then we're going to check back in with that student after a few days. Make sure they're using the technology appropriately and they know handy times to use it. Problem solve challenges with them as well so they don't give up. Now that we've identified a need and we've talked through implementing a plan, let's talk more about how we will determine what the best course of action is for a specific student. While all the tools I'm presenting today can be used by any student, in public schools we have some structures in place. So before we present these tools, we'll need to do a little critical thinking to know where to start. First question, does the student have an IEP? If this student is in your classroom, you are provided their plan at the beginning of the school year or when the plan was developed. Let's say first that the student does. Check for a tried and true solution in the accommodations section, related services, support for personnel, assistive technology section, and the profile page. Is there one listed? Let's say there is. Then try it out, asking for help along the way. Then teach everyone around the student how to use the tool. And if one of these tools you learned about today works better, consider revising the plan to include it. On the other hand, what if there is no solution listed yet? This is your chance to teach the student some of these tools we're going to talk about today. And if you feel like you need additional team members brought into this process, contact your special ed coordinator or your go-to person for special education questions. But, I know, I hear these all the time, but I don't have time, but I can't remember how, but it's too helpful, but it's new, whatever. I hope to empower you today to just go for it. Rewatch the part of this training that you need to watch to feel more confident, and then show it off to your student, and both of you walk away feeling more independent. Now let's consider what to do if a student does not have an IEP. Does this mean you can't provide some AT solutions? Absolutely not. Do you or does the student have a Chromebook, laptop, or iPad? If they don't, I'll provide you with some solutions that are low tech that you should try out. But I hope that you will use this as an opportunity to also advocate to have basic technology so your students can access the wealth of tools available to them. But more than likely, you have the technology. So determine what tool you think will help the situation the most and teach your student. And if you start to go through those buts, just know that you're teaching the student something that will help them to be more independent, which means less dependent on you. I hope this helps you understand who you can serve with these tools and makes this feel less intimidating. The main takeaway from this is that these tools I'm providing you with today are not special, they're accessible. We're going to consider 3 challenges today related to reading, writing, and math. The first challenge we're going to consider is a student that has difficulty reading. Whether they have a vision issue, a focus issue, or a diagnosis that impacts their ability to read, these tools can support them. For each challenge, I'm going to share tools that fall in these categories: low, mid, and high tech. But our focus will be on those mid-tech tools that do not require advanced training to use, just knowledge of their existence and access to them. For reading challenges, low-tech options are attention grabbers and focus tools. Mid-tech are built-in tools, extensions, and apps that are commonly available to school systems and school personnel. High-tech tools include OCR, or optical character recognition. These are tools that their sole purpose is to convert images of typed, handwritten, or printed text into text that can be read aloud by the program. Luckily, we don't need any of those fancy tools because we're going to learn how we can do this using the tools we already have available to us. Chromebooks have this accessibility feature available to anyone called Select to Speak. It allows you to select any text that's on the screen to be read aloud. Another tool that's helpful for students is the Google Chrome extension called Google Read and Write. This tool allows the user to read the screen aloud as well, but it doesn't read everything on the computer. Let me show you how to set up Select to Speak on a Chromebook. Accessing it after initial setup is super easy too. You're gonna love this tool. All right, so I have my Chromebook from school here. For initial setup, we're gonna click the bottom right corner where the time is. Then click on the settings gear here. Over on the left, you'll see accessibility next to that little stick figure. Click on that. Then click where it says text to speech. The first option is Chromevox. This is not really what you want. This tool is for people with significant visual impairment who need the screen read aloud and described. We just want selections of text read, so we're gonna click here next to Select to Speak. Now you'll see this little microphone with a line through it appear on the bottom of your screen. Upon initial setup, it needs some time to update itself, so if it doesn't start instantly, give it just a minute until it looks like mine down here. All right, so I've got a tricky passage here about tsunamis. There's a bunch of words in there that I don't know, so I need the screen read aloud to me. I'm gonna click on that microphone until it looks like this little half a square with an arrow. That's telling me to click the top left corner and drag until I'm covering what I want it to read aloud.
Tsunami waves do not resemble normal undersea currents or sea waves.
And the screen begins to read aloud. After I select the text, the audio control window pops up, and now I have control over pausing, playing, restarting, and making the text read faster. And when I'm all done, I just click the X to make it stop. This is a set it and remember you have it situation. The icon stays there on the bottom of the screen on the menu bar to be accessed anytime you need it. You can turn it off by returning to the accessibility menu and clicking the toggle button to deselect it, which makes the icon go away from your menu bar. The Google Read and Write extension is not only available on Chromebook, but it's only available within the Google Chrome web browser. which means it's available on any computer you have Google Chrome on and can log into your school account. Google extensions follow you on whatever device you're logged into. I have a MacBook at home and a Chromebook for work, and I can access all my Google extensions on both because I have the Google Chrome web browser. As far as built-in accessibility features that provide the screen reading function, MacBooks and computers running Windows have similar tools. You'd access them in a similar way, opening settings, then navigating the accessibility features. On Macs, it's called Spoken Content, and on Windows, Narrator. They work very similarly to the Select to Speak tool, so I trust you can figure it out if you're using one of these devices. Next up, one of my favorites. Step aside fancy OCR programs, tools, and apps. Let's go ahead and show you what an iPhone or iPad can do. So, let's say I have a passage. I just can't read it. It's too small, it's above my reading level, whatever it is, I can't read it. So, I'm gonna take out my iPhone, open up my camera, and take a quick picture of the passage. I'll open the picture and I'll long press on the part that I want read aloud. I'll select the text and then choose Speak.
World of education. Assistive technology is the bridge that connects students' abilities to their aspirations. Robert Davis.
Pretty cool, huh? Now another option is Translate, which I have found to be super helpful, especially with some Japanese candy I got from my husband's cousin who studied abroad last year. So let me show you how to set it up on an iPhone or iPad. So you're gonna open your settings, then tap Accessibility. Tap Spoken Content, and then the toggle button next to Speak selection. You can take it a step further and choose Highlight Content to give you more visual feedback and allow you to follow along with your eyes as the screen is read aloud. So, I have another passage here about tsunamis. We're gonna long press and then select the text we want to be read aloud. Now we're going to tap the arrow until we see Speak.
A tsunami is a series of waves caused by earthquakes or undersea volcanic eruptions.
Now let's check out the Translate feature I mentioned earlier. We tap the highlighted text, tap the arrow until we see Google Translate or Translate. From here we have all kinds of languages to choose from. I prefer English, but you can choose to have it translated into any language you'd like. All right, so here's that candy I was talking about. If we want to find out what these candies are actually called, we can take a picture, and then long press on the text, tap Translate. Oh, look, these are chocolate. We've covered several mid-tech assistive technology solutions for students that have reading challenges. Using these tools can help our students complete tasks without a person reading passages aloud, and can even empower a student to figure out how to say a word without raising their hand. Instead, they just do a couple clicks and the tricky word on the screen is read aloud to them. Here are several low-tech tools you've probably seen before and may even have in your classroom. These are focus and attention grabbers. Some help to decrease the visual clutter, some help increase interest, and the magnifying bars increase the size. I like finger flashlights and googly eye buddies and use them for my students who have trouble with focus. These tools are easy to get at your favorite online retailer. They even come in bundles sometimes. But if you need help determining specific tools for specific needs, your school's occupational therapist, teacher for the visually impaired, resource teacher, reading specialist, or an AT professional can help. As an occupational therapist, I'm the go-to person for students with bad handwriting. I agree that many of the foundational skills I tend to focus on do have an effect on the written work you're able to produce. However, occupational therapy is not always what a student needs to produce better work. Sometimes they just need to get their point across another way, or they need a little extra support, which assistive technology can provide. The tools I'm going to focus on today take some of the stress out of handwriting or typing and help the student be more independent and a confident writer. We're going to talk about a few low-tech tools that I have found to help most of my students with writing difficulties. I'm going to show you my very favorite mid-tech tools that I'm just so excited to share with you. and share a few ways I use them to help you help your students be their own problem solvers. High-tech options. Well, the most high-tech solution I can think of that doesn't involve AI is video and sound recording. This is a solution, but it's not typically necessary or doable. Sure, a student could video record themselves telling you their 5-page paper, but wouldn't they need to script it first? And sure, we could record your lectures, but don't we want the student to participate in note-taking? That's where our mid-tech solutions can shine. Dictation is a tool I have used for years within a Google Doc. It's on the Tools menu listed as voice typing. This tool is a pretty good listener, almost as good as Siri, Alexa, or Google, or whatever you use. But it's not perfect, and the voice commands are not always followed. So I use it and recommend it often. But I always have to go back and edit my work, which can take time and visual attention. The squiggly line of the built-in grammar and spell check tool does help. So please use this tool, but let me tell you about how to set up the accessibility feature to use dictation anywhere on a Chromebook, not just in the Google suite of products. This is a built-in accessibility feature on Chromebooks that I have students use all the time, all over their Chromebooks. It's a favorite. In addition, there are a few extensions I would like to share that allow a student to type or use voice to text or add pictures or voice memos to put their answers into a picture or a PDF. I'll also touch on a tool that provides predictive text. So let's start with dictation. On a Chromebook, you click the menu bar again and open your settings. Click the stick figure by accessibility to open that menu again. So we're changing the way we input information into our Chromebook. So click the keyboard and text input. Then click the toggle button next to dictation. That'll make this microphone appear at the bottom of the screen. The first time you turn on this feature, it takes a couple minutes to get going. So wait for the microphone to look like mine before clicking on it. The great thing about this dictation option is that it allows you and your student to use voice typing anywhere on the Chromebook, even within Schoology. Here I have a message box open. I click within the text box, click the microphone. I am typing with my voice, and it appears on my screen. Another way I love to teach my students to use dictation is to figure out how to spell something. I work with students that type and write just fine, but utilize dictation to spell tricky words, like tsunami. I share this with students and teachers almost every day I go to work. I also suggest opening google.com and clicking the microphone on the search bar, but use whatever microphone is closest to you. Another tool I love to recommend for these students is OrbitNote and Kami. If you don't already have access to these tools, both offer a free trial or a free account when using your work email address to sign up. So check them out. You may have access and just don't know it. You can find them by searching for the extension. When you're in Google Chrome on your Chromebook or on any computer with the Google Chrome web browser, you can click on the black puzzle piece to the right of the web address bar. Then click Manage Extensions and check out what you have, or go search for these tools. These two, OrbitNote and Kami, are my favorites, but there are plenty of other PDF editors out there. What they do is allow you to open a PDF or take a picture of a worksheet and open it up and type directly into the document and submit it through your school's preferred program or email. Let me show you an example on Kami. I'll show you OrbitNote as well, but we'll save that for the next challenge. I have a PDF here from my Google Drive that I want to fill in by typing. I'll click here on Open With and choose Annotate with Kami. It opens my document here after I've signed in with my school account. The first time you do this, you will have to log in. All right, here's my worksheet. I can click here to expand my menu. Then if I click on Markup, I have some highlight options. I love these highlight options, especially if this is a page in notes. I can just click the highlighter and then highlight important words or phrases. I can also go here to text box, and I can add a text box anywhere on the screen and fill it in. I can change the text, how big it is, if it's bold, what color it is. It's pretty simple. I can also use the drawing tool. If I want to highlight things or circle things, got that ready to go. I can add pictures. I can add emojis. I can add a signature. I can even add voice memos. Or I can have the screen read aloud. Also, bonus, Kami saves the changes to the document in your drive, so you don't lose any annotations, and it's easy to share with colleagues or for students to share with their teacher. I will mention that on a Mac and a Windows computer, there are dictation tools available in the accessibility features, and they're very similar to dictation on a Chromebook. Voice control on MacBooks is very similar to using Siri, but also can be used as a dictation tool to write emails or whatever. For Windows users, you would want to check out dictation and speech recognition in the accessibility menu. Your cell phone is great at listening to you, sometimes too good, but we'll talk about ways this feature can be used by our students. Dictation is as easy as, "Hey Siri," on an iPhone or an iPad. Or you can tap on any text box, which opens the on-screen keyboard and provides you with a microphone option so you can dictate into a text box. Also, predictive text is provided there on the top of the keyboard. I have a few students that use iPad apps for school, and they utilize predictive text to speed up their typing frequently. One tip I will give you is that if a student is using an iPad predominantly for schoolwork and you use a lot of Google Slides or Google Docs, predictive text sometimes just goes away. The solution is adding the keyboard extension called Gboard, which gives you a Google keyboard that has a very similar predictive text function. You just have to remember to switch keyboards if you want to use that feature. Now that's a lot of fun tools to play around with and get to know. I encourage you to use them to personalize documents and show your students how to use them to independently complete work legibly, take notes, and work more quickly. Speaking of typing more quickly, I need to mention the predictive text tool within Google Read and Write. This feature is only available with the full version, which is free if you're an educator. You just click the crystal ball, and as you type, a list of predictive words pops up below to choose from. It's not the most ideal setup, but it can help students who have trouble with spelling especially. I imagine that most school-based OTs will relate. My work bag and trunk organizer are filled to the brim with low-tech writing solutions. But here are some of my favorites. Adaptive paper is any paper that has some kind of adaptation to it. You'll see bold lines, highlighted lines, boxes, blue, green, or pink lines, raised lines, double lines, you name it. Someone has made it, and some student could benefit from it. I choose the best fit for my students by looking at their work samples, watching them write, and trial and error until we come up with something that makes the writing more legible, and most importantly, is something the student will use. It's a good idea to have a little stash of adaptive paper handy so you can go ahead and try some out. Where would you find adaptive paper? Any online retailer, Teachers Pay Teachers, and there are a lot of OT and teacher websites out there that provide adaptive paper with a subscription to their newsletter or for a small fee. As far as writing tool, my favorite pens are erasable pens that erase with heat. Friction is the name brand. As I said, they erase with heat. So don't leave anything you wrote out in a hot car or in the window, because your writing will disappear. I know that from experience. I will never get those notes back. My favorite pencils are Papermate handwriting mechanical pencils. They have the best thick lead that's hard to break and erases clean. Also, I wanted to mention a couple of things about worksheets and notes. If you're having trouble reading what a student wrote on a worksheet and there are not lines in the space for their answer, go ahead and write some lines for them to write on first. If that doesn't help, try one of the AT solutions. If a student is lacking foundational skills and the low-tech tools make no difference, maybe your school's OT does need to assess the situation. But these tools are available to you and every student, and there's nothing wrong with trying them out. Our final challenge is this: I can't read my students' math work. A lot of students just like to skip the show your work part, and I can't help with the ones that just don't want to. But with the ones who try, but you can't read it, or they get confused by their own writing, I have a few solutions to try out. Again, low-tech options are those easy-to-find, inexpensive tools that reduce the challenge and allow the student to do what they need to do. In this case, these are tools that help without giving answers. Our mid-tech options are for Google Chrome and may look pretty familiar to our last challenge, and a couple of apps for iPad. When it comes to math, high-tech options are going to help the student a little too much. For this challenge, we want to see that the student is going through the correct process, not just getting the answer right, so no high-tech solutions are being considered here. Like I mentioned on the previous challenge, tools available on Google Chrome are available on any device as long as you have the Google Chrome web browser. OrbitNote and Kami are again my top 2 recommendations to reduce the writing so that a student can complete the work on their own. For a math worksheet, I would use Kami in the same way I demonstrated before. I'm not going to walk through that again, but I will mention that there was another menu option, Equation. That allows you to type out an equation and add math symbols, but it does not solve the math problem for you. I'll demonstrate the use of OrbitNote and an additional feature, Equatio, in a second. One other tool is available within Google Docs, MathType. This is an add-on feature you would get by clicking extensions and add-ons. This is another way to be able to type out math equations, or even use voice-to-text to write out simple and complex equations and put them into a Google Doc. This is helpful if the student is working within a Google Doc, but usually we're working on worksheets. So let's take a look at OrbitNote and Equatio. I'm going to open this document in the same way I opened the document to annotate with Kami, except this time I'm going to click on OrbitNote. The first time you open with OrbitNote, you're going to want to make sure that you choose your school email address to log in. Then your document should appear. So first, I need to put my name on this document. So I'm going to click here where this T is and insert a text box. This is a pretty simple equation here on the top. I need to type here, so I'm going to simply click and add a text box. S equals 6.5 times 4. As you can see, doesn't solve the problem for me, right? Let's say I want to type a more complicated equation. So I'm going to go ahead and open Equatio here. Now I'll click Equation Editor and then start typing. So perimeter equals 2 times. Now you can see here that the other side of the parentheses has popped up, so it does give you a little bit of predictive text. Oh, and I've made a mistake. Let's see what happens. It didn't change it, so it's not going to solve the problem for me. It did make it awfully big though. So here I can take it and I can change the size of the text. I can change the way it looks to make it fit in this text box. I'm not using any fancy symbols or anything in this particular equation, but if I needed that, they would be there in this menu. And then after I get my attempt at the equation typed up, it's inserted. I can click and drag it anywhere I need it to go. And now you can read my math work. A few iPad apps that can be used in a similar way to OrbitNote and Kami, but on an iPad, are Notability, GoodNotes, Evernote, and even the drawing apps like Freeform and the markup feature that pops up whenever you pull up a picture or a PDF on your phone or iPad could be used to show math work. I use one of these apps with a student who has low vision, and they simply need their worksheets magnified. So they will use their preferred Notes app to take a picture of the math worksheet, and they're able to pinch and zoom, and then they use their Apple Pencil to show their work. It took a little trial and error to figure out which of the apps was best for him, but they all have pros and cons. So if you have an iPad, I recommend playing around with several of these tools so you can know it's available. For me, handwriting recognition, where the touchscreen converts your writing to text, is really cool. but it's not the best choice for our students that already have trouble writing. So I'm cautious to recommend it to my students, but I personally use it a good bit on my iPad. In conclusion, for math challenges, we want to help our student get their math on paper on their own, but we don't want to help them so much that we can't tell if they're working out the problem and understanding the concept. All of these tools are worth a try, especially if a student is dependent on a scribe. I've also heard that Equatio and MathType have helped some teachers create worksheets and quizzes, so give them a try if you haven't already. Before we move on from math, let's check out some low-tech tools that can also help keep us in line. Graph paper and adaptive paper, like this gray space paper, can help organize a student's math by providing the extra visual cues. If I'm all out of graph paper or the boxes are too small, I simply make my own in a spreadsheet or a table, or I do a quick image search for printable quad or graph paper, 1/2 inch or whatever size I want. Another tool I like is a number pad. When students are typing a lot of numbers and they keep accidentally hitting letters or those function keys at the top, sometimes an external number pad is the solution. Also, I've had some success with a classic printing calculator. The problem with this tool is that it does solve the problem for the student. So this would only be used if the process is the purpose. Also, I work with several students who know their numbers but are, for whatever reason, unable to write them. So for them, number stamps are the solution. With them, they can participate and complete simple math worksheets independently. And for me, that's the goal, to help a student do a task independently using the tools available to them. To wrap up, let's go through this process again, now that we have all these new tools in our tool belt. The need is identified. It's something related to reading, writing, or math. And we know that AT is available to help with the challenge, and we're taking any of our students' limitations into account. Now we know what tools we have in our school, in our classroom, in our district, and we know what low tech we can get our hands on. So which tool do we think is the best for this scenario? Could it be dictation, select-to-speak, maybe a PDF editor, or maybe an erasable pen or a googly eye reading buddy? Whichever tool is right for this challenge, let's teach it to the student and all of the people that help the student out. Let's make sure we emphasize that this tool is to make you more independent, but if you need help using it, you would be there for them. Which leads us to follow up. Make sure you circle back to be sure there isn't a weird login issue or a preference not being met that's keeping the student from using the tool. I've had a student quit using Select-to-Speak because they didn't like the voice, but they didn't know you could change the voice, and when we did that, they started using it again. Problem solving can be a quick fix like that, or an issue like saving or sharing a completed PDF, and if you have issues that I didn't cover here or that you need further support with, check the help menu or Google it. Honestly, everything I've taught you, I learned because I was presented with a challenge, and I found assistive technology to be the solution. I hope that these tools can help you to solve you and your students' challenges and make your students more confident and independent. However, if you do not have access to a device or software, contact the Accessing Potential through Assistive Technology Lending Library to discuss a possible trial of these products. You'll learn more about the Lending Library at the end of this module.
Hi, I'm Ashley with Accessing Potential through Assistive Technology, APT AT for short. We are a program of the Alabama Department of Rehabilitation Services focused on helping people with disabilities reach their aptitudes and abilities through assistive technology. We provide services such as device demonstrations to assist individuals and their support staff with comparing features of assistive technology to make the best choice for their needs. Our partners across the state provide gently used durable medical equipment that can be acquired at no cost to the individual. We work closely with organizations to provide in-depth training to increase knowledge of assistive technology. In fact, you can request training for your team, school, or school system to support your AT goals. And finally, we offer a lending library to allow individuals to borrow assistive technology tools for 30 days for trial purposes, temporary accommodations while devices are being funded or repaired, or for professional development. We are working closely with the Alabama State Department of Education, Special Education Services, to ensure our lending library is filled with tools you can utilize for your students with disabilities. You can access our lending library by visiting al.atforall.com.
Hello. As a member of the Alabama State Department of Education Special Education Services, I would like to thank you all for engaging in this module on assistive technology. As we conclude, I want to express my appreciation for your commitment to enhancing accessibility in education. The tools and strategies discussed here are pivotal in ensuring that every student has the support they need to succeed. Your dedication to learning and implementing these strategies is instrumental in creating a level playing field for our students with disabilities. As we move forward, I encourage you to continue exploring new advancements in assistive technologies and integrating them effectively into your classroom practices. Together, we can make meaningful strides ensuring that students with disabilities are able to fully engage in the classroom and beyond. Thank you again for your participation and contributions. Let's keep working towards our future where every learner can thrive.